Graffiti is everywhere. Some say it's a work of art. Some say it's a menace to society. Either way, humans do it a lot.
Whether it's making sure your name is scribbled over a wall or wanting your artwork to be the next Banksy, graffiti has gripped the people of England for a long time. In fact, probably a lot longer than you'd think.
But to find some really old graffiti, I'm going to have to go far away and back in time.
Be aware that smoking or vaping is not allowed anywhere.
This programme is about finding old spaces that are far out, so I would need to take the most reliable transport Britain has yet to offer, the National Rail Service. Incidentally, there were strikes on this day, so we didn't know if we'd make it for filming or not, and I didn't even know if I'd get back home for work the next day. But anyway, I had to find out, could I find something incredibly old that could closely resemble graffiti? Or could I be wrong and find something completely different and beyond my own scope of knowledge? I had to travel somewhere very out of the way to find out.
Today I'm in Ilkley, a small town in West Yorkshire, but I'm not here for the town, I'm here for the surrounding area, since it's got some lovely, gorgeous moorland. Let's go. That's the one.
And then, after looking around almost hopelessly and realising I should have worn my coat in these shots for continuity, I found what I was looking for.
Aha, I think this could be a cup and ring stone. So if you want to follow me, take as much time as you need to come round, and yes, this is it. This is the Badger Stone. The Badger Stone is one of the more famous, well-known cup and ring stones around here on Ilkley Moor. We have these wonderful cups and rings. You can kind of see it from an angle as well. If you want to come down here, you'll be able to see, yeah, there's loads more here. There's a cup which is in the very centre, that's the dip, and the ring is around the dip. These are really old. These are like Neolithic speaking, and I would love to sit and chat with you today about what they're used for and why they were put on this rock. But honestly, I have no idea.
I spoke to Marianne Ochota, a broadcast journalist and anthropologist who's written several books about old things in the middle of nowhere. That's pretty cool, right? And she's presented for Time Team. Let's find out what she has to say.
Not many people know about them. Even people who regularly go walking on, say, Rumbold's Moor, which is part of Ilkley Moor, they're like, "Was a what?" We don't know anything about what they were for. So that's the point, Elise, that we get to speculate wildly. Was it part of some ritual? Is it some kind of mystical pictogram language? Is it some kind of abstract storytelling? Some people have said that maybe it's a way of marking territory. Most of British rock art isn't the kind of stuff that you might imagine if you're thinking of those caves in Lascaux in France or Altamira in Spain, where you've got like buffalo, galloping, painted really beautifully, or handprints kind of with paint or ochre splattered around them. We may have had that in the UK at some point, but it hasn't survived, if we ever did have it. The chances are probably that people were actually moving much more seasonally here, and so they perhaps weren't as settled enough to sit down and go, right, let's start the masterpiece. What we actually find when you talk about British rock art and ancient art is engravings into panels of rock, and it's much more subtle. It's a connoisseur's rock art, shall we call it.
This type of cup and ring stone is all over the world, but the highest concentration of them are here in England. Now, I'd like to try to find out what some locals think, but there aren't many around here, so I'm going to have to catch some. Did you know that Badger Stone was here?
Well, we did actually, because we're doing a recce for a run, a fell race, my first fell race next Tuesday. It's a nice big stone, and it's good to get here to finally know we're in the right place. So yeah, I do like the Badger Stone.
All right, folks, and we've got a very special stone here indeed. This one is called the Barmershaw stone, and the Barmershaw stone is much like the Badger stone, made out of the same stuff and probably the same people. I mean, it's only a 2-minute walk that way. All right, 5-minute walk that way. But you still have the cup and ring stones. However, each stone, each cup and ring stone is individualistic. Each one differs from the next. And what's more, they are scheduled monuments, which means they are protected by the land, the people, the law, and you cannot, ironically, graffiti on them or anything like that.
Most of these date from the Bronze Age, so some of them possibly a little bit earlier. It's quite hard to date them. So probably not earlier than 4000 BC, which would plant it firmly in the Neolithic, the late Stone Age. But probably most of it is later, so from the Bronze Age, from about 2400 BC to about 1500 BC. And then it looks like these sites, they're not destroyed, but new ones aren't being created. So that perhaps suggests that there's some kind of change in practice. So we know about 7,000 known rock art panels in England and Wales and Scotland, but there is inevitably more still undiscovered. A lot of it may well be covered by vegetation or by a layer of peat. I'm not saying that we should be going around digging them up, because at the point you dig them up, you're potentially damaging a very precious archaeological site, so please don't do that, folks. But also, once you expose it to the weather, you expose it to a much greater chance of it being destroyed. And sometimes they've found that actually if you try and peel off the vegetation that's grown over a stone, you end up actually peeling the layer of stone off that has the rock art in it. It just crumbles. So better to absolutely leave it be, because these are archaeological sites and would be scheduled if they were known about. So they would be protected in law. So you have to act as if they are already protected in law.
Before we finish, there's something else I want to show you. Nestled in the Peak District is my favourite cup and ring stone of them all. Many people cross this space and don't even realise it's hanging right over their head. It's hidden in plain sight between the border of Derbyshire and South Yorkshire, but it takes a real keen eye to find it.
All right, if you follow me, this way. Up here. Oh. This is the Toad's Mouth. The Toad's Mouth is a stone that hangs precariously over a road as busy users cross it, thinking nothing of it. As did I for many years, until I researched it and found out the Toad's Mouth is called the Toad's Mouth because it looks like a toad. Why? Because of some graffiti on it to make those eyes. Each side has one eye, and people think that these were done a very, very long time ago. In fact, these might be Mesolithic period drawn graffiti eyes. Fantastic. Especially as it's so obscure, it's so hard to research, and nobody really knows the true story behind it.
I kind of just love the idea that there are people gathered around this stone with all these weird markings, and they have those same markings on their body or on their clothing. And you kind of go, oh, maybe this was a motif that was on the doorposts of their homes. Maybe this was a motif that they would paint onto the flanks of their cattle. We don't know. But I kind of love the idea that actually, if you kind of zoomed down as the time traveller, you'd be like, hold on a minute, there's cup and rings everywhere.
All right, folks, at the beginning of this episode, I wanted to portray these as graffiti, these markings, but I really, after all this researching and all this going out and finding them myself, I don't know if you can call it graffiti. Perhaps it has the same essence or will within the person's mind to put their ideas onto something forever, but there is something very different about them. See, the people that did this, even though Perhaps they were a lot like me. I think they were also far too different. They had different gods, they had different ideas, and these were probably done for a reason that I will never, ever, ever comprehend. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay. I am a little bit sad about it, but it's okay. I'll get over it. And I'm going to have to see you next time, where hopefully my mind is blown, your mind is blown in the middle of nowhere.